in the comedy world, you know. You know, when you go to rectal exam jokes, it actually has to do with telehealth exams, because I do say to the patients,
oh my God, bend over.
no, I do say to the patients, until the state makes me require a rectal exam for a medical cannabis recertification visit, we can surely continue to do telehealth.
China does for COVID.
Well, I know. Did you see that? They're just starting. They're doing anal swabs.
Is that right? No, I did not. What?
Huh?
Oh, I didn't see that. Oh, really? Our live? Good. No, it's perfect.
Thanks for the heads up.
Yeah, I know. No, I did not know that. So listen, welcome to the green room, everybody. And listen, today's topic is emergencies. And, you know, are we only 1 week after the inauguration?
Yeah,
I know.
1 week, hence the purple Kamala jacket.
I love it. It looks beautiful.
Gonna support my women peeps.
Great color on it. But, you know, it's interesting because, you know, it's going to be funny to see how time goes now. So Larry King passed away this past weekend. I want to give a shout out. He was a hero to me.
And Cloris Leachman, I loved her.
I saw that. And Hank Aaron, of course.
Yes,
you know,
Hank Aaron. All of them legends in their own way.
They are in their own way. And Larry King specifically, to me, you know, one of the things I found to be interesting is you hear the Larry King stories. And I guess I have to admit to being kind of like this myself. He never read the books before he interviewed the people that he was interviewing. And his reason was that he wanted to ask the same questions of people who were watching from the audience that also hadn't read the book. Now, a lot of authors took offense to that because a lot of being an interviewer is preparing for your interview and this stuff. But Larry got away with it.
Much too, though. The guy gave interviews like
he got away with it because he was a great listener, unbelievable listener, and he was able to elicit things from people. But he was a hero to me, and I absolutely, you know, stimulated me towards getting into similar media.
No, and I think he inspired a lot of people like Oprah. I mean, he had a lot of impact on a lot of the big wigs out there in the industry.
Did. And Hank Aaron, of course, in his own right, had to fight unbelievable racism. You know, and I think it's a big talk about, you know, what's going on still as we speak today in our little time warp. You know, because to me, it's going to be interesting to see if time continues to go really, really fast, as I think we've mostly experienced through COVID. But now it seems like things have slowed down. It's that kind of calmness that
probably before a storm.
Listen, we're hoping for that calmness with competence now in Washington that I think a lot of us have been missing. And you're right, it's not defined yet.
You know, it's not defined. And if you listen to like the Homeland Security people and the FBI, Lord. I mean, it's the
and we don't have a Homeland Security secretary because they won't confirm it.
They want to filibuster it, which is crazy.
You know, I said this to you yesterday, Ruta, and I believe it. And I think it is really a detriment and a horrible, horrible thing for the American people right now. What happened at the Capitol is literally out on tape. These are time tapes. You have to remember that as people were watching the former president's speech, okay, that they also were holding cell phones and watching it, right? In the back of the audience, on their way to the Capitol. So there's timelines that say that former President Trump is using these terms and then they're being parroted in the crowd. And people died over this. So for me, I cannot understand what more egregious thing a leader has ever done. And everybody, I'm here to tell you that these people are radicalized. They're every bit as radicalized as Osama bin Laden radicalized those Islamics that ran into our towers. And how we undo the radicalization of these Americans. You know, listen, Jose was here last week.
It's going to be it's tough.
And I think Jose's most profound thing that I took out of last week's, you know, I named his video 7 Pounds of Pressure. He named his video, what do we call them?
Yeah, what do we call? I understand.
And I still don't know what we call
them. I agree with him. What do you call these people? They call themselves patriots, but they're truly the most unpatriotic, anarchists.
But they're asking the American people not to believe. They're asking the American people not to believe what they're seeing on video.
And you know what? This is a trend that Trump started. And I think that's such a dangerous line because every single time now, every politician thinks they're Donald Trump to say, well, it's not what I meant. I might have said, yeah, go Hank Pence. It's not what I meant. You know,
listen, Al Franken lost his job because he posted a picture of him mimicking that he was feeling a woman's breasts. Okay.
Had it been any Democrat president who said what he said and then had a bunch of Democrats storm the Capitol, can I tell you the lynch mob would have been out there within 30 seconds hanging us? And I'm like, I'm sorry, don't be hypocritical.
I don't understand.
Stop being hypocrites.
But I don't understand how the lynch mob isn't out there now.
They should
What
be
are
out
they
there.
protecting?
Every American,
Who are they protecting?
Democrat and Republican should be a lynch mob right now with those people.
Do you even think that Donald Trump is going to care if he steps over you,
He
Ted
could
Cruz?
care less,
If he steps
my God.
over you, Josh Hawley?
He's a sociopath. He doesn't have any emotions except for himself. That guy could care less.
He was going to step over Mike Pence. What would have happened if these rioters, these insurrectionists, these radicalized terrorists would have gotten a hold of Mike Pence?
They would have killed him. They would have killed him. And then, like you said, I think that was Trump's ultimate plan, then go into martial law and stay king forever and then proclaim his children.
And who doesn't see this? And listen, Hitler was in jail for 9 months, okay, in the 30s. He wrote Mein Kampf when he was in jail, and he came back, and then he was Hitler, okay? So listen, to equate, and Hitler was probably smarter than Trump. I think in a lot of ways he was an evil.
But they're
genius.
evil geniuses. They are evil geniuses, unfortunately. I mean, they're incapable of human emotion.
But how can anybody allow this person to get back into the public space? How can that be?
But you know what else kills me? I'm sorry. The other thing that I just cannot tolerate and can't stomach is this Christian right wing that claims this man has any Christian morals whatsoever. And I'm so fed up with that. And hearing this higher horse for Trump, for Trump, for an anarchist, for somebody who's going
They're
against
beating
their
Capitol
country.
policemen. You know, did I hear two Capitol policemen committed suicide, actually?
I didn't hear that.
I heard
but
at least one this morning.
So I know that there were two. So that we have.
Were there two,
There
Don?
were two.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Yep,
Don,
there
our
were.
producer, says two. So there were two, but they showed now more details of them beating with American flags. They were beating the cops
With
and
Trump flags.
in Trump flags and American flags, because they herald that Trump flag above the American flag, and that's where the radicalism comes. Anybody that takes the American flag down and puts anybody's name above that, I'm sorry, that becomes anarchy, and it's ridiculous, and it should be punished.
And what do you call people that continue to promote chaos? So Congressman Matt Gaetz from Florida.
Oh Jesus, he's an idiot.
So
I'm sorry, he really is.
Congressman Matt Gaetz from
Vote him
Florida
out.
is
People,
going to Cheyenne, Wyoming today to lead a rally against Liz Cheney, one of the few who stood up firmly, proudly for America, for the Constitution.
He's such a putz.
But hang on, he's called for the Patriots to join him.
Oh yeah, he's
today.
calling on Patriots and his Cabana boy.
Well, listen, he's calling on the Patriots to join him. And in light of yesterday's, Homeland Security alerts, you just wonder when somebody starts to question who is continuing. Listen, I don't think we've heard yet about the tours that were given to the insurrectionists.
That has to come up, that they were invited personally at the invitation of some of the
starting to hear the process.
It was a mad plan. I mean, it was a master mad plan.
Listen,
mad in
Ruta,
the sense of insane.
Why do you have to do 3 or 4 things on any given day? And I see patients, and I do administrative things, and I take a state call. Can't the Senate do more than one thing at a time?
No.
Okay. Can you tell me that they can't take care of what the American people need to take care of them? And then listen, if it takes 3 to 4 weeks, everybody, to ferret this whole thing out. You know what, Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz, you get up in front of the Senate, okay, and you show me the voter fraud, okay? You show me
anybody show us the voter
you show
fraud.
me
Anybody.
You want to risk a $1.3 billion, okay?
Supreme Court.
Hang on, Rudy Giuliani was just sued for $1.3 billion by Dominion. You guys want to risk that too?
Oh, well, their biggest fear is losing donor dollars, and now they're going out the door, including Mr. Pillow Talk there. So
Mr. Pillow Talk.
I'm sorry, all their little Mr. Pillow Talk. That's who's heralded right now in the Republican space of being some demagogue too. The pillow guy, really? That's the best you got? I mean,
so I guess if we were code red, since this is our emergency show.
So let's go to the emergency.
If we were code red on January 6th, I guess we're down to orange at this particular point because we've had our warnings of continued chaos. but I think we're in a little bit more of a percolating sub-emergency type of zone right now.
But
Listen,
we still have an emergency. We still have COVID. I mean, and the numbers, thankfully, in some areas are
No.
starting to go down, but we still have a record high amount of
I guess it didn't go away
hospitalizations.
after the election or after
Oh,
the
it didn't go,
inauguration.
well, it didn't go away when the warm weather
Yeah,
came. It
nothing.
didn't go away when he
So I want to give a big
not
shout out
elected.
to all of my friends in emergency medicine, okay, that are still out there doing their thing. My nurse friends, my doctor friends, my paramedic colleagues. And listen, it's an honor. I want to show emergency medicine news. My colleague on the back, here she is, Dr. Sherry, right? Yaffe Cameron. So she writes the cannabis column for Emergency Medicine News, Ruta. And I'm honored to say that I'm being featured in an article in the April edition of Emergency Medicine News about doctors that used to do emergency medicine that have transitioned.
Oh, and give us a
into
little, we're
cannabis
gonna give a
medicine.
little plug for this event that you're organizing.
So,
really exciting
as my
event.
brain goes, I became very excited because the article coming in April was a perfect opportunity to join that together with a little bit of advertising campaign to have what, and I haven't named it formally yet, but it's something like 420 Focus, medical cannabis and emergency medicine. Where's the emergency? Okay, because in my 33 years in emergency medicine, I never saw a cannabis related emergency or problem, not once, not ever, not never. Now the landscape has changed. And now that we have edibles, we have stronger cannabis products. There's a percolation in the prohibitionist literature that we're seeing an increase in elderly falls. We're seeing an increase in psychiatric problems in teenagers. There's what's called the cannabis hyperemesis syndrome, where you have a nausea and vomiting, severe intestinal problem from using cannabis, right? And a couple other issues. What I want to do is get a whole bunch of ER doctors together on any one given night, introduce medical cannabis to those ER doctors that don't know anything about it, and also solicit opinions about what's really going on. So I'm really excited about it. It's going to be on 420.
Yeah,
Right now, listen, Don knows this because we're making the ad up for the event. If you're an ER doctor, Ruta, what night do you think that you'd rather work? St. Patrick's Day, New Year's Eve, or 420 Cannabis
420.
Day? So that's about the
You're
easiest
gonna get a
thing
lot
in
of
the
people
world.
like that overeat on Pringles or something.
No one's going to come in on 420. So seriously,
spaghetti that night.
it's one of the funny parts of it. So every ER doctor knows this, but I'm very honored, really, to be one of the 4 docs. Actually, Rich Temple from Florida is representing a doc that is now a MMTC medical director. So there's different ways to do, medical cannabis after a career in emergency medicine. But listen, Don, our producer in the background, I had him pull yesterday the top 10 reasons to visit ERs.
All right, I want everyone at home to do a little thing.
Yeah, take a few moments.
Take a few seconds and write down the top 10 reasons you would think somebody would go to the ER. Please take like 20 seconds, write them down. We're going to go over a list.
Because we were kind of surprised.
We were shocked.
And I'll be honest with you, I almost want to use it in the night of the ER so I can read it out to the ER doctors, because it's almost kind of comical. And in the order in which they came. Don, do you have the list, or are you behind the scenes there?
I'm looking for it right
now.
All right, no problem.
Yeah, so I think we should go, if you find it, we're going to go backwards. We're going to go from 10 to 1, I think. Or should we go 1 to 10? Because they're going to surprise a lot of you. So hopefully you've all jotted down your top 10 reasons.
So the first thing to know about the ER, of course, is that many people use it for their routine healthcare.
Because
Okay,
they
we
don't
know
have
that.
health insurance.
For sure.
Another reason why we need something done on
Right.
that.
All right, Don, you got our you got a list? All right, no problem.
Right
There it is.
there.
Okay.
All right, so I think we should we go up or down? Okay, I think we should go from 10 down to 1, because we'll do the drum roll as we go down.
Right. So chest pain, interesting,
Is number 10.
is number 10.
Number 10 is chest pain.
And of course, probably the most important reason amongst a few others to go to the ER.
Yeah, you
right?
would think chest pain would be number 1. I was shocked because I thought it would have been number 1. It's
So-
number 10.
And that would be your classic heart attack,
Heart
of course, but there's
attack
other causes of severe chest pain. You could have a ruptured or punctured lung, you
there's
could
a
have
lot.
a
But
severe
people, honestly,
pneumonia.
you always see people like, oh, chest pain, run to the ER.
You do.
Yeah, it's
and as
kind
I
of
tell everybody,
interesting.
you should never ignore chest pain, especially with shortness of breath, of course, or an increased heart rate. other type of things. So chest pain makes sense. It's there. Abdominal pain, of course.
Abdominal is number 9.
Now,
so
I thought those would be higher. I really
did too. I really think, kids, everybody, even elderly, but everybody with abdominal pain too, you can't take it, you go to the ER. The number 9.
And it's a different world today because of the CAT scan that's so easily available in the ER. And it's one of the reasons why I don't miss it as much as people would think, because in the old days, I would have to diagnose an appendicitis with my history, with my physical exam, with a good amount of, doctor common sense and experience.
Like, at least you would think like you get appendicitis or something. There were other things like abdominal.
Of course.
So I was surprised that, again, 9 and 10 were shocking to me because I thought those should have been number 1 and number 2.
So technology has taken over and it makes it not as much fun, quite frankly.
Number 8 is a total shocker for me too. Toothache.
Listen.
A toothache? You go to the ER for a toothache? Like, don't you call your dentist? Like, who?
No, you don't. And many people that don't have insurance have incredibly horrible teeth. They get infected and that kind of tips them over to come in.
Really?
And it's interesting when you have somebody that has literally 20 different areas of dental decay and they point to that one particular area as the area that's hurting.
My mouth.
And this is an interesting thing about the ER. And I used to say, listen, if you're dying of starvation and thirst, and you go to the grocery store and you bang on the door with no money and say, I am dying of hunger and thirst, they're going to call the police to take you away.
Yeah.
If you go to the ER with a complaint of dental pain from a toothache and you have no money or no insurance, we open the doors.
Here you go.
And we roll out the red carpet.
Yeah.
So it's very, very interesting. People want injections sometimes for their dental pain or pain pills.
Well, this is the thing. You would think like pain pills would probably be like way up there as a need, like not really why they're going to the ER, but it's really why they're going to the ER.
So I can't even tell you how horrible the dental problems are that you see in the ER. No, it's one of the things that I really
Okay,
like
number 7 makes sense to me. Sprains and broken bones, got it.
Yeah, well, that's the classic type of stuff. And, as I always tell everybody, people say, how do I stay out of the ER after I have a, minor injury, wrist or ankle? Listen, if you have swelling immediately with bruising, then there's a pretty good chance that a bone has been broken and there's been some blood leak out. That could be a toe. So sometimes you bang your toe and it hurts pretty good. But the next day, if you have a bruising at the base of the toe, you probably, have some type of bony injury. Same thing with ankles. Or in an ankle sprain, sometimes you pull ligaments and they bleed, right? So swelling and bruising would necessitate x-ray to me. Pain without swelling and bruising, it could probably take a couple days and lay low. Ice elevation, things like that, always appropriate for sure. So of course, sprains, broken bones. And listen, that's important too because of falls, right? So in the cannabis world, we worry about, so for example, an edible, if you take an edible before you go to bed, you're probably not going to feel it while you're falling asleep, but it may affect you at 3 a.m. when you have to get up and go to the bathroom, right? So we do. So we always advise our patients to be cautious. We don't want anybody falling and injuring anything. Upper respiratory infection. So, that's the classic, okay? And if I had a cure for the common cold, everybody, I would have retired a long time ago, okay? And that's the truth. And amoxicillin, of course, is the classic,
it's a classic
cure for the common cold.
Amoxicillin or Z-Pak.
And the lazy ER doctor will sit there all day and will just write out Zithromax and amoxicillin prescriptions and not teach patients. On the other hand, you get a lot of notes to your director in the ER if you don't give the patients the antibiotics that they're coming in expecting. So the savvy ER doc tends to teach and treat. So to me, if I knew it wasn't a strep, for example, and I knew it was viral, I would always tell patients, listen, the antibiotic probably won't do much today or even the next day. Rest, fluids, take a couple of days off work. The work note is by far and away one of the most important reasons to go to the ER.
So you get out.
But anyway, I would tell them, but if you get a sinusy thing, 3 or 4 days, fever persisting, coughing up. So there's ways of teaching patients when the antibiotic for the secondary infection may be appropriate, right?
You know what I don't understand? When you travel around the world, you can get amoxicillin at any drugstore or grocery store. Here, you have to get a script for it. And I don't understand why is it so regulated when in every other country you just go it's like aspirin or Tylenol. You can get amoxicillin, Z-Pak anywhere you go.
There's reasons from financial to safety to conservatism. But that's most likely financial. Yeah, you're always going to follow the money back in America.
Okay,
cuts and contusions falls in with sprains and broken bones. So that's just the minor impacts of the day and for sure. And listen, the care of a laceration of the face to an ER doctor, to me was one of the most profound things that I did, because that person's going to carry that scar around for the rest of their life. So you can never be lazy on those. You always have to think about that's your sister, sitting around the card. And I would take a lot of pleasure when people would come back, because my last ER job was in Alliance, Ohio, had 13 years there. So I would have patients that I had repaired lacerations on 5 or 6 years before and come back. And they would say, hey, you fix this up. And I would look and I say, oh, I can't even see it. And they say, I know, it's great. So I always felt good about that. Back pain is classic, of course. So back pain goes along kind of with the work note.
It's a tough one to, for work, it's tough to prove like you can't move.
And people want x-rays. People want x-rays of their back, which are useless unless you have some type of fall or trauma or this, that. So the good ER doctor actually many times will talk you out of doing needless tests, right? The lazy ER doctor will just click the button and send them to x-ray, and they know they're going to come back. It's going to be negative. On the other hand, though, every once in a while, but CT and MRI is different. Bone is bone. That's just a regular old plain x-ray. CT, MRI may show a tumor or a mass or this or that, so once again, it's a technological thing, and people can't always get that follow-up. Like in the old days, go back to see your doctor within 2 weeks, you're going to get in, your insurance is going to cover. Now, if you're in the ER, sometimes it's easier to hit that CAT scan button.
Well, it is, and it's easier for a patient financially, because if they can get their bill written off from the hospital.
Now we're still going to the most common.
Now the most common, this is a weird one too, skin infection.
Well, there's a lot of cellulitis and MRSA, MRSA, right?
But see, like that's above chest pain. To me, it's still bizarre.
Listen, people will come in and they'll say it's a spider bite, right? And it's almost always a MRSA, right? Skin infection, cellulitis. Elderly people with vascular insufficiency come in all the time with lower leg cellulitis. And listen, I say this because in the old days, imagine riding in the old Wild West, right? You're on the range and you're riding around. It's hot, it's sweaty, it's dusty. You take a bath about once every 3 months or something like that. But the point is, of course, they had boils and abscesses and things like that. One of two things happened. It either burst to the outside world, a lot of pain, very ugly, but that got better because that's the big guy's way up there of getting you better. Or it went the other direction into the bloodstream and people would die. And in the old days, people would very commonly die of bloodstream infections from skin, right? Infections. So if you leave things alone and they drain, people get better. And in fact, the best ER doctors know that if you land something, get all the pus out, patients don't need antibiotics. We all still do it because nobody wants to have that, lawyer in the background saying, why didn't you give that patient antibiotics? But in general, people get better. Okay. I know we're near the end too.
Okay.
How can this be, Ruta?
All right. This one is a shocker.
Didn't believe it. Still don't.
I think of Richard Gere stories on this one.
Foreign objects in the body. So listen, that could be anything from a piece of graphite in your hand.
To a gerbil. No.
Indeed. But seriously, we would have patients come in with a piece of, pencil lead, remember that, and that would stay forever. It stays, actually.
But you do hear kids like putting like peas or like Legos in their nose or up.
There's a lot of tricks. No, we would take the oxygen insufflator, we would close that side of the nose, and then we would do it through the mouth, and it would come out the nose. Oh, there's a million stories in the big city, and I've got it, but I can't tell most of them on here.
I know.
But I was surprised by this one, and I'll be honest with you, you just don't believe it.
No,
Headache's number one.
Headache is number one.
I wonder if this was specific to the Trump era necessarily, Ruta. I don't
that was
think
constant
so.
migraine.
Yeah, no, listen, headaches are an important cause of ER visits, no doubt about it. In the old days, we would have to literally do a lumbar puncture to rule out a small bleed, which would be the worst of things that can happen. Now, MRIs and things like that. But, meningitis would be the worst of things. Migraine headaches, we see those in the cannabis clinic every day. The treatments for them are terrible. So the bottom, but yes, headaches, really interesting.
Number one, and foreign objects number two.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm not buying these lists. And you said, Don, there were more than one list that had this list.
Oh yeah, there's multiple lists, and it's kind of interesting.
We live in a different age.
We do, but the point is as an emergency clinician moving into the medical cannabis space, it's been so interesting to me. And it's what I knew all along throughout my life, was that in general, for the social societal ills, cannabis does not participate in the emergency aspect of it. The CB1 and the CB2 receptors literally can't turn off your breathing, right? No one has found a strain yet that makes you take your clothes off running around naked down the road, okay, because you're out of control.
No, Matthew McConaughey,
I don't think it was just.
he said it was on cannabis, and he was banging on his drum all day. And
My point is, that's why I'm really interested in the event, because I really want to try to get that, and I say room full, that Zoom meeting full right now of ER doctors and I want to take a poll. I literally want to take a poll and see if really what's going on out there on the boots on the ground. ER doctor day-to-day practice has really been affected by either the legal adult use of cannabis or in the medical programs.
California.
Yeah. So it's going to be fun. We're going to have an all-star panel. Can't really say exactly who at this point, but I've had everybody wants to be involved, so it's fantastic. Anyway, listen, Green Room to us has been so helpful. And I hope that it has been for others too. People have reached out to me.
Yeah, no, we've had really good feedback, and we always open the lines up, so we don't take phone calls. But if you text us while we're on the air, if you have a question about the ER, about cannabis, about anything, just give us, text us. We'll be happy to read the question out loud.
And there's tons going on in Florida right now, everybody. So for next week's Green Room is my point. We're getting into the legislative season. Most people that are savvy know what's going on. There's actually 3 adult use bills, right, up in Tallahassee. Probably none of them will get out of committee, but also very important bills about expungement and about extension of the 210 day to 350 days. There's also bills with job protections. Maybe we'll have Gary Stein come back in and give us a little update. But the point is, this is the legislative season. It's funny, Ruta, as an Ohioan, I didn't know that they only met for 2 months every year in Florida in legislative session.
I know, it's the weirdest thing.
It is.
It is. It's really odd. It was new to me too when I moved to Florida. I'm like, that's it. You guys work two weeks out of the year.
So 2 months.
I mean,
and the only thing they have to get done by statute is a budget.
A budget, yeah. That's the
so
only
anything
thing
else that gets done. We also have the Supreme Court case that may come down before session, which is the Florida grown case, which is the case that may break up the vertical, right?
Yeah.
That Joe Redner. God, I should see if we can get Joe in also, because he'd probably give us some updates on that. Anyway, listen, I know we're going to have some patients waiting. Thank you for the therapy, as always, in the Green Room.
Thanks, and we'll have hope everybody has a great week, and we'll